Welcome back to this week's Monday Moment of Envy, everybody. And this week we are featuring someone that Brendon has picked. Who have you chosen to be envious of this week, man?
Yeah, today we're coming, got an image from Rudy Serrano from California.
Rudy.
He got some amazing pictures of the sand dunes out at the Guadalupe Sand Dunes Park.
It was hard to pick just one, right? I mean, they had 2 or 3 that were awesome.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, wow. Good job, man. Good job, Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy, this image is stellar. I mean, even the story is fantastic. He says, you know, I took this shot. This is hot off the press, guys. He submitted it like hours after he had taken it. So he drove 3 hours home to take this picture and to process it. And so 3 hours each way, I'm guessing, because that's a lot of driving. But the picture is stellar, and it totally worked out well. So.
Oh, man, no kidding. I mean, Brendon and I were just out at Sand Dunes trying to capture a Milky Way with it, and everything that's in this picture is everything we couldn't capture at the Sand Dunes. We couldn't balance light between subject, between composition, having enough light. I mean, I know this is all natural lighting, and so obviously the sun's very good at lighting your scene, but man, I'm jealous of this shot. Woo!
Yeah, we tried to do something with one light out with the Milky Way with the sand dunes, and we just couldn't get it to work.
Yeah.
Having the sun bouncing off the clouds, lighting the foreground enough, and then highlighting the dunes and the edge and stuff is just fantastic. So it worked out really well for you, Rudy. Good job.
Yeah, and honestly, you look at this image and you think, well, I mean, if there were 0 clouds, could everything be strong? Because what's great about the composition are these shapes of the hills, the horizon that's intersecting at a different level of that, the texture in the sand. I mean, so all of those things are great elements. And so is this image strong with the top third sky being different at all, or does it need the clouds, the dynamic, cool-looking, texture-filled clouds? How do you think?
Yeah, I think the clouds definitely add a lot of character to the image. There's a lot of detail, and it's almost like the clouds are almost mirroring a similar color and texture as the sand, and so there's kind of a balance there.
Yeah.
Even though you get that like the nice rough grains, and you can almost see the individual grains. The sharpness is so good at the bottom of the frame that you get these really good detail. The sand, those really beautiful lines, and the clouds are almost like a mirror, but an opposite, where it's like these really smooth. And you still see the texture, but it's like really smooth and the opposite of what the sand is. So it's this really cool, complementary thing going on there, even though there's similar tones and color.
Right. I mean, let's look at some of the composition elements. Let's break it down again as we do. So you got your 3/3, and you're looking at this bottom third of the foreground. I mean, great focus, Rudy, because you have fantastic focus on the grains of sand in the front. And then you look at these ripples, and you think about leading lines. And you almost always think about leading lines as starting in front of you and pointing towards the subject or guiding your eye towards the subject. And that these lines, the lines in this image in the sand dune, are all going perpendicular from your leading line typically. I mean, they are coming in front of us. Let me just draw a few lines on here to show how we're dealing with lines that are crossing our face like this, like my Apple Pencil. It's in front of my face like this, and then a pattern of these is leading out to the area. So how do these work as leading lines when the lines are actually not pointing? Because it was easy to look last night, or I guess it was 2 nights ago now, huh, Brendon? When we were out there, we're trying to find a leading line in these sand ripples and using them as literal lines pointing towards the Milky Way. But we had a lot of things like this, too, where we had cross lines that actually also worked as a leading line if only we could have lit them well enough. And so you look at Rudy's, and these leading lines, or I should say that these ripples and waves, I don't know if it's because our brain understands how waves work and how it looks like these waves are emanating from or towards our subject here. If our subject is the lighter hill, the hill that's getting the light on the side, that highlight there, if that's our subject with the sunset and everything, then this wave pattern that's heading towards it or away from it all feels like a directional pull. I think it's in our minds because of that, because we were familiar with waves, but also the pattern as it goes, and these lines are really, really big and detailed in front of us and then get lighter and thinner and disappear, and kind of they go into a perspective disappear in the distance, all at this subject, and there's more lines over at this subject. And so as your eyes look at these waves in the front, Oh, sand waves, sand waves, sand waves, sand waves. We're guided to where the lightest parts of the scene is. And our second third, I mean, this is an interesting balance because you look at this image and think it's kind of imbalanced. There's nothing in the bottom third that goes up into the top third because even those textured waves, they barely cross over into it. The middle third is two humps, two terrain points, a horizon, and the sun. And then the top third is the darkest part of the clouds. And so it's like this could be an imbalance, and yet it feels balanced. It feels strong. And I think it's all because those lines and waviness, they kind of guide you and you follow with them to look up at the brightest part of the subject, and with the light of just curving around this side of the hill and the big old bright starburst of the sun right there as you've got those lines spiking off of it, the silhouette of the bushes and leaves and grasses that are on that hill. All of that draws your eyes to the sun and over here, and you end up with subjects that are interesting, and your eye goes through the whole image entirely. At the very end, you check out these clouds at the top because they are getting, like you said earlier, accented with the light. So yeah, I think it's still a strong, balanced composition despite the fact that it's so middle third heavy.
Yeah, and I think he might have watched some Art Wolf videos too, where he says, don't put your subject in the center because the sun is offset to the left there. And I don't know if it'd be as interesting if the sun was dead center. Maybe it would be, but having it off to the left gives it that really good, interesting, more something just a little bit different,
And you can see how pristine this area is, and he could have gone right or left in any way he wanted and put that sun anyhow in those two sand dune hills. It could have been anything than this.
Yeah.
So you look at
But giving us a perspective past those dunes is really cool, though. Being able to see the rest of the sand leading into the ocean instead of being blocked by the sun is also very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us would spend a lot of time at the coastline looking for a subject, and he went back further, found a little elevation so he can look over it all, include it, plus something interesting that, in my favor, I love things that break the plane. And he has these two mounds breaking the plane of the horizon, and it looks so much stronger because of it.
Yeah.
So when you look
very
at
well done.
The last few images that we've been envious of, Brendon, have all had very great color schemes. Like everything is a nice, consistent color scheme that complements itself. And the subject, the foreground, the background, all of them have those colors in it. And it's strong in this one by a long shot.
Yeah. Definitely.
So then if you look at where the sun is and you try and draw these starbursts off of it, and you look at where the subject is, you have a hill that's a little bit lower than the hill on the right. So they have difference. They have a little bit of imbalance that actually balances it instead of being perfectly symmetrical. And then the way that the light is hitting in between these to carry and build the strength and shape of the second hill, love that. And then the last thing I would say about the light is that he's got this lens flare that normally we kind of try and avoid, but it draws interest across this planes. If you break these planes in vertical thirds, he's going from the far left, crossing the plane over to the far right. And so that lens flare is actually complementary to this image, and it's not ruining anything. It actually looks awesome.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, man. It's a great shot.
Yeah, you were speechless there for a
Rudy
second.
Made the sacrifice. Yeah. Rudy made the sacrifice. He went out there and then even sacrificed sleep to process it because he was so excited. He said it was 3 a.m. when he got done with it, and he said, I'm barely going to get any sleep, but who cares? I'm so happy with the outcome. So, hey, we are too. Good job, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Way to nail your focus in the foreground. Way to look for a balanced composition and make it work for you. And just using what is basically two humps of sand, which maybe should be boring, you made them look beautiful, fantastic, awesome. You want more of this image. You're not bored of it yet. You just want more.
Yeah.
So awesome job, Rudy. Well done, man. It was hard choosing which image of yours to feature because you came through and you really, really threw some awesome stuff at us. So thanks for sharing it over in the Photog Adventures listeners group, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this week's Monday Moment of Envy, and keep sending your work so we can see that you are actually getting out there and having a photog adventure of your own.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.